Grand Finals is now over, and it was one of the most exciting finishes I have ever seen. We had Peterbot and Clix going right down to the wire. It was a nail biter. There's now accusations of teams being paid to grief and feed the other teams. Of course, NA finishing with so much drama. Over on EU, we had again a super close finish. We have our first Danish FNCS winner of all time. I want to talk about what happened to MrSavage and what it means for his future after a very unfortunate performance. I want to talk about the other regions and who won and which drops they went, because it was actually super interesting where people got their FNCS wins from. There's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. A lot of people are calling this one of the most exciting FNCSs ever, and honestly, I have to agree. We're going to kick off with NA. We'll talk about the first versus second, Peterbot versus Clix. Then I'll talk about who made LAN and the rest of the tournament. So again, if you guys missed day one or you missed my recap, basically going into the last game of day one, we had Clix in first, Peterbot in second, which surprised a lot of people, maybe not some of you guys, but Peterbot didn't like that too much, took the aggression straight to Clix, keyed Batman Booga, took down Clix's team, made them have a pretty dudded game, and then Peterbot went on to dominate that game and then jump ahead. So going into day two, we had Peterbot in the lead, but it wasn't a big lead. It definitely wasn't insurmountable for Clix, and the question was, could Clix answer the aggression? Was he going to maybe respond with a bit of aggression on his own, and could Clix handle the pressure and overtake Pete for his first FNCS win? Now, kicking off the first game, the answer was definitely yes. Clix came out with a 10 elimination fourth, whereas Peterbot only got a 3 elimination ninth. Clix and Peterbot were neck and neck, and that was going to be the story of the rest of this Grand Finals. There was no Pete runaway here in Chapter 6 Season 2. It was a super exciting FNCS, a nail biter right down to the line. Every single time one of them did well, the other one would answer. So then Clix then backed up the next game with a 12 elimination win, but Peterbot got a 14 elimination second. Just again, neck and neck. Then we had Clix manage to get a 6 elim 10th. Not really the best game. This is Peterbot's chance to run away with it. No, Pete gets an 11 elimination ninth, going down just after Clix. So right neck and neck. Then we had Clix get an 8 elimination second. Peterbot gets a 9 elimination fifth. We have 2 games to go, and then this is where things got a little bit weird. Now, we had a team that was in last place start contesting Clix and Peterbot. It was a really weird situation. There was so much going around on social media. There was accusations of these players being paid to drop on Clix. Then they were paid to drop on Peterbot. Then they were feeding eliminations to Pete while trying to fight Clix. It got super messy. Now, again, I don't want to go into too much of this because there is so much said and done. Clix has said that he actually reported this team the night before the tournament to Epic because he had rumors that they were going to grief him. They were going to do something weird. And then day 2 came around. Things got a little bit crazy. Now, again, there was a few times where Clix did get landed on. The team tried to fight him. They disengaged. But the times they dropped on Peterbot, Peterbot's team was able to take them down. And honestly, trying to be as unbiased as possible, it looked a bit strange. It did not look like the team was playing to the best of their ability. Now, there was accusations being thrown around that Peterbot paid them to land on me, paid them to grief Clix and give them kills. There is no indication that anyone on Pete's team had any contact with these players. Clix doesn't believe that. BloodX, anyone involved doesn't believe that. So I just want to kind of put those rumors to rest. Now, why this team in last place decided to start landing on Clix and Peterbot, I don't know. Clix is convinced that he is going to get them banned for this. Apparently, they are going to be banned. He's reached out to Epic because they weren't playing the best of their abilities. There's just apparently logs and logs of DMs of them being paid to switch up their strategy. It looks like they weren't out to get either team. It was just whoever could pay them more. Not saying that was from the players involved. Apparently it was other people in the community. So really, really crappy, and it's definitely going to put like a big asterisk on this tournament. It's going to take, a lot of the attention away from it. But I do really love the way that Yomzo and BloodX and everyone in Clix's team handled this. They said, look, no cope. We're not trying to make excuses. It was weird what happened. It sucks, but that's not why we lost the tournament. People pointing out that, Peterbot only won by 12 points. If they didn't get the kills on that team, then they would have beaten. That everyone was doing this. Clix's team said, no, we had so many chances to beat them. That's just how Fortnite goes. Things get weird. We should have beaten them anyway. BloodX even saying the better team on the day one. So it was a spicy tournament. I want to take Clix's lead here and then not just try to take this win away from Peterbot. It sucks when these things happen, but it was one of the closest and most exciting tournaments we've ever had. So going into the last few games, they were neck and neck. Then going into the very last game, the question was going to be, will Clix land on Peterbot? Will Peterbot land on Clix? They had a massive lead over third place. It was literally a 2-horse race. Peterbot's already in land. Clix knows he secured the land spot. They both want to go for the win. There's no chance they drop down to third, and neither of them contested each other. A lot of people were confused by this decision, but honestly, if you think about it, it makes sense. For Peterbot to win, he just needs Clix to lose. So if Clix tries to land on Peterbot, Peterbot can just go for the train, or he goes to Crime City, he can swerve it out, stall the fight out, just make sure they don't have a good game, and then he wins by default. So you might think, oh, Pete needs to land on Clix to make sure he secures the win, but then he's going on to Clix's territory at a drop spot he knows better, where you're giving Clix a chance to take you down, and then can go on to get, you know, the 30 points he needed to win the tournament. The best opportunity is what Clix took. Clix dropped Lone Wolf, got their loot, and then took the fight to Peterbot. There's been a lot of questions whether Clix would do the same to Peterbot. Could he answer the aggression? The answer is yes. Clix pushed Peterbot inside Crime City. Peterbot's team disengaged. They rotated back around the island, but then Peterbot, being Peterbot, turned around and decided, no, we're going to take the fight to them. Let's settle FNCS right here. They tried to fight Clix. Clix then boxed up, showed that he wanted to play defensive. Peterbot's team didn't want to take the risk taking a fight on their terms playing defensive, because again, Peterbot doesn't need to take down Clix to win the tournament. He just needs to make sure that Clix doesn't have a better game than him. They have a bit of a skirmish. Pete rotates away, Clix rotates away, but the problem is they wasted so much time in this engagement, this little scuffle. Neither of them had their Storm Surge, neither of them had a normal loadout, and now they were both below Surge, and only 30 points separated them. That's when Clix decided to take an aggressive fight inside Seaport, and this happens.
What if we triple bat in? I don't know. I mean, we go from the right wall. Yeah. Okay. Let's do it. 60! Take that off! I'm dead, tell you. 2. Thanks, build. Randoms. Nice. I'll let you know what he's doing. He's getting in. Trying to. Oh, double pump him. You guys need to get me up. You guys need to get me up now. Get me up. Chug me. Guys.
At this point, Clix assumed his FNCS was over. He's 30 points behind Peterbot. There's no way Peterbot's going to have a worse game than them. But Peterbot's team at that very moment was below Surge themselves. They're right next to Clix. One of them goes down, and then it's a 2v2. Clix is down, Peterbot is down. It is going to be Higgs and Iomzo versus Ritual and Cold. Both of them are out in zone. They have no meds, and then unfortunately, none of them make it in. Both teams completely go down, but because of this, Clix's team only had 6 eliminations, and they had a 30-point lead to cut down, so Peterbot ends up winning the tournament. Now, a lot of people are pointing out that Higgs should have splashed Clix there. It was a bit of a brain explosion moment. He pulls out his big pot. He's a little bit panicked. Clix then goes down. They did have a lot of meds there. They could have salvaged. They could have maybe got the meds as a trio, rotated in, taken down Pete's team, and then won the tournament. There's a lot of people putting this pressure on Higgs, and everyone on this team, Clix, Iomzo, BloodX, their coach, all say the same thing. This was not Higgs's fault. Yes, this could have been played better. A lot of people pointing out that potentially even before going for the fight, Iomzo or Higgs should have splashed Clix so it didn't come right down to the wire. But that straight fight that they took, they needed to not go down. They messed up that fight, and it's a 12-game tournament. There's so many times when you could have gained or lost 10 or 20 points. You can't put it all on one mistake. So unfortunately, at the end of this, I had a chat with Clix and Higgs. Clix was super happy. It's his best FNCS placement ever. He's a little bit annoyed that he couldn't win it, but he's staying positive. He's now qualified for LAN. Iomzo wanted to get the FNCS win, but again, he acknowledges that there was a lot of things they could have done better, so he's a little bit upset about that, but none of them are putting the blame on Higgs. But unfortunately, we got no statement from Higgs. Higgs kind of went radio silent. This is, you know, his tied best FNCS performance ever. He also came second with Rapid, almost won it, playing phenomenal. But again, a lot of people are going to fixate on this mistake from Higgs, but it was such an exciting tournament. The fact that Clix took it right down to the line, almost beat Peterbot, again proved that Peterbot could be beaten. And I feel like right now, for the sake of Fortnite competitive, the vibes and the viewership, I think that's what most people need. A lot of you people who watch my videos, I know you're not Peterbot's biggest fan, or you are Peterbot's biggest fan and you love him, and that's what's making the content and the excitement so high for Fortnite right now. It is very like you love him or you hate him. So I think what a lot of people need though is to understand that Pete can be beaten. As long as there's that belief, people will watch competitive Fortnite, and that's what Clix has given us here in this tournament. An absolutely phenomenal tournament. It was extremely exciting. Pete's team played phenomenally well. I really hope we can put to rest, you know, the claims that Ritual and Cold, especially Ritual, are getting carried. They both played phenomenal. Ritual and Cold put on an absolute clinic this weekend alongside Peterbot. They finished on 842 points. They played 12 matches. They got 9 eliminations, an average placement of 6th. Clix, Higgs, and Yomzo got 91 eliminations and an average placement of 6.92. They both played phenomenal Fortnite. Peterbot just beat them out. They were the better team on the day. Again, according to both the teams, it was such an exciting finish. And again, I know a lot of people are going to fixate either on Higgs should have popped the splash or that team fed them kills. But if we do that with every FNCS where there's a little bit of drama, it really does sour it. I'm super excited to see these teams go up against each other again in the next FNCS. It's not going to be next season. It's going to be the one after, and going up against each other in LAN, because now Clix, Higgs, and Yomzo have booked their ticket to Lyon, France for the Global Championship. And we had some big performances. We had Reet, Cooper, and Curly taking out third place on 682 points. A brand new trio that only formed a week before groups. This is Cooper's first time proper IGLing a trio. He IGL'd with Mero in duos, but again, like, duos is a lot easier to IGL when you're playing with one of the most experienced, best players of all time. You don't really have to tell them that much to do. So Reet, Cooper, and Curly absolutely dominating. It felt so good to see Reet back on top, repping it for Controller Gang again. A third place on a major region is big for the believers of Controller right now. Those of you guys who are still sticking to the sticks and believing you can make it, I think Reet is really holding it down for you guys. Curly, 16-year-old, this is his 4th ever grand finals, and he's qualified to LAN. Even did it with a solo clutch himself to win a game on day 2. Just really impressive performance from this trio. I'm super happy to see them do well. And then a very underrated trio, Visuals, Braids, and Diminished. I had them in 10th place on my predictions, and even people thought I was crazy for doing that. They came 4th place, only losing to Reet's team by 3 points, but they got the last ticket to Lyon, France. Now, I talked about how Braids is now on 0 ping, and I do think that was a factor, but this trio are grinders. They play every single scrim session. They play every single tournament. They take the game as seriously as they can, and it shows. They were dropping Foxy Floodgate, not a super overpowered drop, a one that on EU, their counterparts Trulex struggled at, so it's not like it was just a free drop. They had an amazing drop. I really do think this was one of the most impressive performances across both the major regions, and I'm super excited to see what Visuals, Braids, and Diminished can now do coming into LAN. Now, 5th place was Aegis, Acorn, and Poyo. They already had their LAN spot, so the next closest team to making LAN was Rapid, Burger, and Threats, who finished on 612 points. Now, it is worth pointing out, Threats crashed on the last game. Now, again, kind of sad to listen to, but this was Threats' reaction to finding out that he crashed with his chance to qualify for LAN.
Under us. Oh, my game, wait, my game. Hello? My game crashed, bro. Bro, what a joke, man. Oh my god. No, it's full crash, bro. Oh my god.
I really do feel for Threats here. You can hear the pain in his voice. They were on high ground. He just split all of his match to his teammates. They could have won the game, and in their mind, they could have qualified off that, but because Visuals, Braids, and Diminished had such a good last game, it was going to be near impossible for them to qualify, but we'll never know, and you do always want to play it out, so at least you can say you tried your best and it didn't work. But huge performance by them. They did just miss out on the LAN spot, which now means it's worth pointing out Kanata, Bolts, and Sphinx in 7th, Muzz, Yapko, and Rise in 8th, Shadow Curve, Tyler in 9th, Taki, Ishu, and Vert in 10th. All of these phenomenal players, and there's only 6 players left going to LAN on NA. There's only 2 spots left in the next major, and there's all these phenomenal players, and only 6 of them get to go. Unless we're going to see some crazy, cross regions, they're going to go to NA West and take a spot there, or go to Middle East or something crazy. There's not a lot of spots left up for grabs. So huge shout out to Reet, Visuals, and Reet, Visuals, and then Clix's team, who was able to take the qualification spot. I'm not sure how the next major is going to go. Some of these teams will definitely be feeling the pressure. Aegis, Acorn, and Poyo in 5th. I know a lot of people are going to talk about that. I had them picked to come 2nd overall. It was a rough tournament for them. They didn't really get a lot of the zones, but the zones did start to even out a little bit on day 2. But again, I don't want to focus too much on just blaming the zones, because there was a lot of teams on this list that did quite well with different zones as well. So Aegis, Acorn, and Poyo, I guess we'll have to see. Back to the drawing board. They've qualified for LAN, so they are forced to play with each other again next season. Maybe it could have been a bit of a vibes issue, like people are pointing out coming into it. I don't think a 5th is terrible by any means. It's just we really did have a lot of people talking about Pete and Acorn being the only 2 contenders for the top spot, and then Clix, Higgs, and Yomzo came out and dominated. So it's gonna be exciting to see what they can do. I would love to see not just a 2-horse race next FNCS. The fact that it was Peterbot up against Clix was just amazing, but having Acorn in there to spice things up a bit would have been really nice. We did have, unfortunately, some underperformances on NA. Bucky, Okerson came down in 18th. I was believing in the day 2 comeback as well, but unfortunately they couldn't pull it off as well. Seek, Dash, and Viet down in 30th. I really don't know what happened to this team. I was gassing them up so much coming into groups. I'm guessing they're probably going to try and create some new trios. on the topic of new trios, we've already started what is a snake inning. I'm not going to cover the full details because I want to wait until they're actually locked in playing a tournament. We do have Muzz and Rise confirming they're looking for one. It looks like Yapko might be going back to Europe. I don't really know, but we're going to start to get some new teams. But next season is a Star Wars season. We don't even know if it's trio tournaments. It could be some goofy duos, squads, solos. I don't know. I'm guessing a bunch of reload cups, but until we start to kick back off into actual trio tournaments, I probably won't cover the trios and who's playing with who because nothing will be set in stone right now. Moving on to EU, and I know what you're thinking, man, compared to NA, EU must have been so boring. But no, EU was so fun. We had so many names battling throughout the whole of day 2. It came right down to the wire at the very end. It was a very exciting tournament. If you guys watched the leaderboard or if you guys saw after day 1, Malibuca was in first by over 120 points. If you look at the leaderboard now, not in the top 3. So what happened to Malibuca? Veno happened. Veno decided that after doing his teeny strat, day 1, dropping all over the map, doing crazy stuff. Yes, he had a bit of success here and there. He decided that at game 1, day 2, he was going to land on Lone Wolf. He was going to take the fight to Malibuca. And I believe this caught Malibuca's team off guard. They won the spawn fight, went on to have a phenomenal game. I thought maybe Veno might try something different. Maybe he goes Mars Meadows, another PY he knows. Maybe he goes something completely different. No, Veno decided to drop on Malibuca 6 out of 6 games on day 2. It made for some crazy entertainment. Malibuca didn't go to social media and complain and say Veno's griefing us. Neither one of them had a decisive victory enough on spawn and quick clearouts to then go on and have the phenomenal games. So unfortunately, both of them did drop down on the leaderboard, but a 4th and 6th while contesting each other is insane. Both of them already had their land spot. They weren't battling to try to hold on to that. They were both fighting to try to go for first place. Veno thought this is their best chance of doing well. Teams have now questioned Veno and people have questioned Veno on social media saying that there surely was better strategies, but honestly, Veno said, look, if he knew the meta was going to turn out like this with long distance surge trading, they would have stayed at Crime City all along. But that only happened within like the last week coming into grand finals. So without a drop spot, without too many options, they tried to do the best they could. And honestly, Veno made it super exciting. He didn't play favorites. He didn't pick on just one team over the other. He did what he thought was best for his grands, and it made it super exciting. Again, unfortunate for Malibuca, it did potentially cost them an FNCS if they were uncontested, but we did still have an extremely close and very exciting finish coming down between Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, who won FNCS. Pixie and Marius' first win, Vanya winning his 3rd now, I believe. Then we had Chino, Pablo, and Feroxy in 2nd, all 3 of them almost winning their first FNCS. Now, there was a lot on the line for this one. Now, either way, no matter who won it, we were going to break the Danish curse. We've now officially had a Dane win FNCS. A lot of us thought it was going to be Thomas HD. I think Thomas HD now has 12 top 4 finishes, including multiple seconds by 1 point. But unfortunately, for Thomas, but very exciting for Denmark, Marius has now brought home their first ever FNCS title. Again, Chino and Pablo, it's worth pointing out, Chino and Fredoxy have never placed inside the top 10 in an FNCS Grand Finals, and they almost won it. They were also the last team to qualify to Grand Finals, the 3rd team out of last chance qualifiers, and they managed to then almost win the tournament. Now, this one was a spicy one as well. Game 12, it was neck and neck. MrSavage's team had a terrible weekend. It was super unfortunate for them. I'll get to that in a second, but they got a bit of luck. They got an assault rifle on the mountain. Fredoxy didn't have the best glider path. He gets picked up by Savage. Savage then decides he's going to key into Mars Meadows to try to have a big game to close out their tournament. This forces Fredoxy's team to disengage, try and reboot, try and scramble their loot, and this ended up messing up their game 12. Unfortunately for MrSavage, they didn't get the result they wanted out of this. It wasn't because it was a terrible play, but because a team was a thorn in their side all weekend. Twice team ended up aggressively pushing into Mars Meadows as well. That created a weird scuffle, but a lot of people are now pointing to Savage saying he's a griefer. How dare he do that to Fredoxy? But again, I have to always point out the definition of griefing gets lost a lot in Fortnite. If MrSavage deliberately pushed Fredoxy knowing it would negatively impact Fredoxy, but it would also negatively impact his own game, then I would call that griefing. Not caring about your own tournament. Screw that guy. I'm going to ruin his tournament. That is griefing. MrSavage, after a rough weekend, saw a chance to get all of Mars Meadows uncontested, have a pop-off game, surge up the leaderboard, make some extra money. They went for the play. It didn't end up working out, but I don't think there was any malicious intention there from MrSavage. I know because it's such a big name, people are always going to be upset. And again, because it did affect Fredoxy and is potentially the reason why he didn't win FNCS, people are going to get upset. But again, it's a battle royale. People have to fight each other. I think there's a lot of confusion whenever I have these discussions around griefing and what's not, or how come that team can fight that that team, but that team can't. Well, at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide what you think is okay. But for me personally, in a lot of the competitive Fortnite scene, that's usually where the lines are drawn. MrSavage is not going to not push Frodoxy just because he's in first, because if anything, that would potentially be TOS, but he tried to make the best play for his tournament. It didn't pan out. Unfortunately, Frodoxy really needed that game 12. The zone finished on Masked Meadows. They could have had the pop-off performance they needed, but Vanya, Pixie, and Marius did better. They got 706 points. They played all 12 matches and won 4 games. They won 4 of the games in an EU finals. They played phenomenal, and Chino, Pablo, and Frodoxy should be incredibly proud of their second place in 669. And now both these teams have booked their ticket to Leon, to Copenhagen, because Vanya didn't have their spot. They came third last grand finals, so they were 1 spot off qualifying, and now they booked their ticket. In third place, we have what is, in my opinion and many people's opinion now, the best Polish trio on EU right now. Pix, Dam, and Damus clutched up a third place. They were 15th going into day 2. They went from 15th up to 3rd. Absolutely popped off. 605 points. Day 1, they were dropping pump power. They were supposed to be uncontested. They had Twice team taking some of their loot, some of the games. They had Veno, lurking in and dropping on them and fighting them and really messing them up. As soon as they got uncontested pump power for those 6 games, they looked like a different beast. I have to imagine what would have happened if this team got 12 games uncontested. This is, I think, their second grand finals ever, and they're popping off this hard. Just absolutely insane. Again, they have now also qualified through to Leon. They are going to be heading to Global Championship. In 4th place, like I talked about, Pingwox and Malabuka, they already had their ticket. So it rolls down Swizzy, Queasy, and Mustache also booking their ticket through 577 points. Not the crazy performance a lot of people, myself including, were expecting. I thought Queasy was going to win it, but a top 5 is still phenomenal. They got their placement to Global Championship. Veno's team in 6th. Again, they're already qualified to LAN, so their spot rolls down. And then we have none other than the EU GOAT to many, Tayson, Riss, and Chicho clutching up the last spot on LAN. EU had 5 spots, NA had 3, so top 7 on EU went through. Phenomenal performance from Tayson, Riss, and Chicho, going from contested Crime City to then deciding they're going to drop over and go towards Kappa Kappa Factory at the end of day 1. They beat out Huddy's team, then ended up getting it uncontested for the start of day 2 before Huddy's team came back and managed to still, while be contested, hold on to their dominant performance, to come back and make it to LAN. It was super exciting to see one of the goes pop off and bring it back from what was looking like a very rough situation. This means we do have some really big teams missing out on LAN. Again, on EU, we had Thomas's team coming in 8th, just missing out. Seti, Hari, and Cami in 9th. We had Pink, Nebs, and Kiro in 10th. iDrop, Sky, and Scroll in 11th. We now have all of these teams, and again, only 3 spots to LAN next season on EU. So there's only 9 more players who can go to LAN on EU, and we have so many big names. Again, that was just close to leaderboard. We still have other big names down leaderboard. We had Moneymaker finish in 15th. Akira's team getting 13th. Giras, who were doing really well on day 1, dropping down to 14th overall. We had Vidil, MrSavage, and Rezon, like I said, having a very rough weekend, finishing in 19th. Nothing really went MrSavage's way this weekend. I talked about in yesterday's video, from uncontested the night before grands to then having the last chance qualifier happen, all 3 teams messing up their drop. They then ended up getting contested again on day 2 by a different team after pushing Twice team off, making them drop somewhere else. Ziandy's team started landing on them. They took them down on the 1 south zone they got on day 2, or the first one they would have gotten. Then Ziandy left, Twi went somewhere else, Twi went the south split. It was a very messy weekend for Vidil, MrSavage, and Rezon. Their vibes were absolutely shot. I have no idea what this means for the future of the 3 of them. MrSavage did say at the end of his stream, as long as Vidil and Rezon do want to keep playing, he wants to lock in and keep playing with them, because he doesn't think this weekend was at all a reflection of how good they actually were as a trio. And I have to agree. Again, we didn't even get a chance to see them play properly. It was just a really rough situation. I wish there could have been something they did differently. Maybe they could have cooked up some strategies like Veno and started dropping around the map, but it's fair to say it just wasn't their grand final, and hopefully we see them bounce back next season. Taking a chance to shout out the smaller regions, and again, this map by Fortnite Comp Report is a perfect way to do it, because we get to see that we had a really big distribution of where teams dropped when they qualified on the different regions. It wasn't just one drop spot that was the best. We had Masked Meadows, Lone Wolf, and Crime City as most people's pick for the best drops on the map, but we had 2 teams qualify out of Masked Meadows. We had Asia and OCE. We had Raito and then Dana's team. I hope I pronounced that right. Sorry if I pronounced the Asia team wrong, but Danath, Mason, Skits now winning back back-to-back FNCSs on OCE, which is super fantastic for them. Then we also had Kadu's team on Brazil winning it out of Canyon Crossing. I have no idea how they pulled that off in Brazil. It was a super close leaderboard. Congratulations to them. Then we have Peterbot's team on NA out of Crime City. We had Arc, Salco, and School on NA West, who absolutely decimated. They did it out of the Shafts. Then we had FKS, Hero, and I don't know how to say that name. I'm so bad at pronouncing Arabic. I'm sorry. On Middle East, they did out of Lone Wolf. Then we had Marius, Pixie, and Vanya doing it out of Flooded Frog. So again, there wasn't just one drop spot that everyone dominated out of, despite us having a few, POIs that did feel a lot stronger than the rest. With only one spot on the small regions, the only way for a spot to roll down is if we get back-to-back wins, which is what we got on OCE. Because Danath won and he already had a spot, his spot rolled down to none other than Power Alex, Resigns, and Anon. Now, I did hear in last game, unfortunately, Alex's team got dropped on by 2 separate trios. Super unfortunate. Definitely a very suspicious play from those teams. It sucks to see for Alex's team trying to win FNCS, but they have booked their ticket to Global Championship, which is awesome to see, but they just bait out Oatly. We almost had Oatly qualify to LAN alongside Z-Dog and Bulldogs. Now, again, I had to clear this up. A lot of people saying that even if Oatly qualified, he wouldn't go to LAN. There was rumors that were going around in the past. Apparently, Oatly has said multiple times if he qualifies for LAN, he will be attending. So, unfortunately, Oatly just missing out. It was a pretty decent point gap. It was about 100 points down between second and third for Oatly, but that means if Oatly performs this well again next season, he will be going to Global Championship, and man, I hope we get to see that.